Welcome to Cheat Sheet Tales, where secrets slip, lies unravel, and the truth always has a twist. Real stories, raw confessions, shocking betrayals. Drop a comment if you've ever caught a red flag. Too late now. Let's get into today's tale. My husband slapped me after his niece called me a cockroach and asked why I smelled like poverty. I hadn't eaten in 2 days so my kids could. I collapsed while folding their laundry. They mocked my accent, my clothes, my love. But my daughter overheard their plans to send her away. Now I have something they want and they'll never get it. I'm Nayla. I was born and raised in a little farming town near Guanajuato, Mexico. My life wasn't easy, but it was mine. I came to the US with the kind of hope you only have when you've seen real hunger and still believe things can get better. I wanted a future something simple and clean. I didn't want riches. I wanted peace. A family, maybe a kitchen with a window. I thought I found all that when I met Eric. He was American, white, born and raised in Wichita, Kansas. A construction worker with tan arms and calloused hands. He came into the diner I worked at just off South Broadway. He smiled at me like he saw something rare. He left big tips. He asked me to lunch. At first I said no. Then I said maybe. Then I said yes. We got married fast, too fast. Everyone told me that, but I thought it made sense. He said I made him feel like life was worth something, I thought. I was building something with a man who had seen the world and wanted to settle down. I didn't realize he wanted someone to settle beneath him. Eric had a daughter from before Morgan. She was cold to me the second we met. I was 24, and she was only 7, but she looked at me like I was already beneath her, like I was the maid. I tried so hard to be good to her. I bought her favorite cereal, learned the songs she liked, and tried to help with homework. But she would spit my name now. It was something stuck in her throat. Still, I stayed. I cooked, cleaned, worked part-time under the table when I could, and sent money home to my mother in Mexico. When we had Lila and Nico, our children, I thought things would change. But it only got worse. Eric worked less, he drank more. And Morgan got pregnant at 17 and dumped her daughter Tess on us. I didn't argue, I couldn't. Tessa became part of the house. A child with too much of her mother in her. She was cruel from the start. At 10, she'd point to my shoes and say, "You know, Payless went out of business, right?" Or she'd wrinkle her nose and say, "Why does your kitchen always smell like beans?" Once she asked Lila, "Do you think your mom knows she looks like a cockroach?" Lila cried in her room that night. I sat in mine and swallowed the insult. I told Eric I told him every time, and every time, he shrugged. "She's a kid," he'd say, or, "Stop being so sensitive." But I saw how he looked at me too, like he'd bought something cheap and now wanted to return it, but lost the receipt. We had nothing, no savings, no car. Half the time the lights got shut off more than once, and I was still making tamales for neighbors, babysitting their kids, sewing for women in the church, all to make sure my kids could eat. That week, everything changed. I hadn't eaten in 2 days. We had 6 eggs, and I gave them to Lila and Nico for breakfast and dinner. I lied and said I wasn't hungry. I folded laundry in the heat, knees aching, stomach tight with emptiness, and everything spun. I passed out cold, right there, between piles of socks and threadbare jeans. When I came to, Dara was standing over me with a smirk. "Did the cockroach finally die?" she said. And Eric. He didn't help me up. He slapped me hard. "You're embarrassing," he hissed. "Get up and stop acting like a damn drama queen." I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stood up and went to bed. Later that night, Lila slipped in next to me. She didn't say anything for a while, just held my hand in her small, quiet way. Then she whispered, "Mommy, I heard Daddy and Beatrice talking. They want to send me away, they said. You messed everything up and they don't want me around anymore." I didn't sleep at all that night. I sat in the dark, her head on my chest, listening to the rattle of the ceiling fan and wondering if I had failed completely, if all my sacrifice meant nothing. But then something in me shifted. Not rage, not even sadness. Something colder, harder, like steel in my bones. They thought I was a ghost, that I could be stepped over, ignored, mocked. But I was still alive, still a mother, and I still had something left to protect. What none of them knew was that I had recently received a letter. An actual physical letter, not an email. It came from an attorney in Mexico. My cousin Tomas had passed away. We hadn't spoken in years, but he had no other heirs. He left me a small piece of land outside Salamanca. It didn't look like much in the photos, a dusty lot with some scrubby trees and a half-collapsed storage shed. But what mattered was what was under it. There were plans, government plans, to build a regional highway right through that stretch. Developers wanted the land desperately. And my cousin had already been in talks. The deal had stalled. Then his heart gave out. That land was mine now. It was worth $140,000 cash. I didn't tell anyone. Not Eric, not Leela, no one. I contacted a buyer. We negotiated for weeks. I used a library computer. I opened a bank account in my name only. My maiden name. I did it quietly, carefully, moved like a woman carrying glass in her arms. And when the money hit my account, I didn't go buy a new car. I didn't flaunt anything. I waited until the day Tessa bloodied Lila's nose, and Eric blamed Lila. That was it, he said. She probably deserved it. Maybe she's acting out because you keep babying her. I said, don't touch her. Don't say another word about her. He got in my face. Call me A. I didn't flinch. That night, I packed a bag. For me and the kids, one small bag each. No fuss. No goodbye. I left a note on the fridge. You thought I had nothing. But I have everything now, and you'll never see us again. We slipped out before sunrise, walked 5 blocks to the bus stop, rode to the women's shelter downtown. They gave us a bed, clean clothes, a place to start again. That was 9 months ago. I haven't spoken to Eric since. He sent messages at first, then stopped. I think he realized I wasn't coming back. He tried to find out about the money. Morgan messaged me on a fake account. You think you're smart running off with daddy's kids? You better hope we don't find you. I blocked her. You can't find someone who's already erased you. And me. I'm building. I have a job. Nat a bakery. I open the shop at 4:30 a.m. I don't mind the hours. It's quiet. Smells like cinnamon and flour. Lila goes to a new school where they don't ask about her English level. Nico made his first friend who doesn't think poor is contagious. I rented a little duplex with a garden out back. I plant cilantro and Galapagos. The kids helped me string up solar lights. Don't we eat dinner at the table? No yelling, no fear. They mocked my accent. It's still here. And so am I. They hated my clothes. Now I sew my own. They ridiculed my love. I love harder, now smarter. Eric and Morgan think I stole something. Maybe they think I owe them my body, my labor, my silence. But here's the truth. They never saw me coming. They never thought I'd be the one to walk away with everything. And they'll never get it. Back it's strange, the little things that make you realize how broken your old life really was. Asterisk, like the first time I saw Leela laugh. Really laugh without flinching. We were at a public park, sitting under a tree with a bag of store-brand kettle corn and plastic bottles of tamarind. Soda. Nico was chasing a squirrel that clearly wanted nothing to do with him. Lila had just finished telling me about a girl in her class named Santa, who wore glitter on her eyelids and didn't care what anyone thought. Then she said, "She reminds me of you, Mommy." I asked, "Why?" She shrugged, "Because she's soft, but she's not scared. That's you now." I didn't even know she could see that. Children notice everything. Asterisk, but that moment made something loosen in my chest, like my ribs weren't cages anymore. I didn't just get my kids away from Eric. I gave them a version of me I didn't know I had inside. Still, freedom isn't quiet. It's not always clean. Sometimes it comes with noise, tension, shadows that try to reach for you from the past. 3 weeks after I filed the police report, yes, I eventually did that on the advice of the shelter caseworker, I got served. Asterisk, Eric had filed a petition for emergency custody. It was laughable, but terrifying. He claimed I'd kidnapped our children, brainwashed them, and was keeping them in dangerous conditions. He even threw in the accusation that I was mentally unstable, likely influenced by Morgan, who I later found out had written the affidavit for him. It was a tactic, a way to rattle me, pull me back into his world. The court gave us a hearing date, and I spent the next few weeks gathering every receipt, photo, witness, statement I could. I had statements from the shelter, from the bakery owner, from Lila's school counselor. I even found the librarian who had helped me open my new email account and taught me how to make PDFs. I was scared, but not helpless. At the hearing, Eric showed up in a wrinkled dress shirt and jeans that still smelled like stale beer. Morgan came too, sitting behind him in the gallery like some twisted shadow. He barely looked at me. When he took the stand, he spoke with the slurred confidence of someone who had never faced real consequences. "She's unstable," he said. "She left in the middle of the night, took my children. I didn't even know where they were. She could be putting them in danger. She doesn't even have proper documentation." The judge, a middle-aged woman with eyes like a hawk, turned to me, asked calmly, "Miss Santiago, do you have a response?" I stood up. "My name is Rosa Santiago," I said clearly, "and I'm the only parent in this room who fed and raised those children every day of their lives. I told the court everything. How we lived, the slaps, the neglect, the hunger, the taunts. The day I passed out and he slapped me while his niece mocked my unconscious body. There was a pause afterward, long and quiet. Eric tried to speak again, but the judge cut him off, said she'd heard enough. That was the day I won sole custody. I walked out of that courtroom with my children beside me, and the weight of my silence gone. That same afternoon, Beatrice cornered me in the parking lot. I didn't see her at first. I was buckling Nico into the back seat. She stepped out from behind a car and said, "You think you're clever, don't you?" I didn't respond. She walked closer. "You think you're going to raise those kids on churros and pity? You think they'll thank you for this? You ruined everything." I turned slowly. "I saved them," I said. "You're mad because I'm not what you thought? You thought I'd stay small? Stay scared," she scoffed. "You're nothing. You're a glorified babysitter who got lucky with some dead guy's land." That part stung. Not because it wasn't true, I did get lucky, but because she said it with such venom, like I'd stolen something that belonged to her. "You're angry," I said quietly, "but I'm not your problem anymore." Then I got in the car and drove off. I never saw her again in person. That wasn't the end of it. A few weeks later, I started getting strange calls. Silent ones. Blocked numbers. A car I didn't recognize drove slowly past our duplex at night. Headlights off. I reported everything. Changed my number. I even spoke with someone at a local legal clinic about getting a restraining order. They helped. They knew the pattern. People like Eric and Morgan, they don't accept the stories over. They keep flipping pages, trying to find where they're still the hero. But I wasn't writing their story anymore. I was writing mine, and in mine, I got stronger. I started a small side business, sewing aprons and kitchen towels. I sold them online, with help from the bakery owner's daughter. Lila learned how to make spreadsheets before I did. She helped me track orders, input receipts, and handle postage. Nico started drawing. At first, it was superheroes, with exaggerated muscles and flaming swords. Then it was our family, me, Lila, him standing in front of a house with a lemon tree in the yard. The lemon tree isn't real yet, but we planted one. I told him it might take years before it bears fruit. "That's okay," he said. "We have time now." I've started saving not just for emergencies, but for dreams. College, maybe a house one day, maybe my own bakery, who knows? But I'll tell you, what I won't do, I won't answer their calls. I won't go back. And I sure as hell won't let them touch what's mine. Some mornings I still wake up thinking I'm back in that old house. The air is heavy like it's pressing down on my chest. The sound of Eric's boots thudding against the floor. That old fridge, humming too loud, masking the silence between all of us. I'd get up without thinking. Make coffee for a man who'd grunt instead of thank me. I'd make eggs I wouldn't eat. I'd pack Tessa's lunch and try not to cry when I found my last clean blouse wrinkled on the floor, because someone didn't like the way it looked. But then I open my eyes and I see Leela's shoes by the door, Nico's soccer ball in the hallway. The scent of cinnamon from the conscious I made yesterday still clinging to the kitchen. I remember I'm not there anymore. But trauma's funny like that. It doesn't always leave when you do. After the custody battle, after the harassment started tapering off, we were safe. But safe is just the absence of danger. It's not the same as healed. Lila had trouble sleeping. She kept her clothes in a small bag under the bed, just in case. Nico didn't want to talk about his dad at all. He told his teacher Eric died. When I asked him why, he said, "Because it feels better that way." At first, I didn't correct him, because I understood. We were free, but freedom left room for things to come back. Memories, triggers, old wounds you thought you buried. Deep draw had left bruises. Emotional mostly. Lila avoided girls with loud voices. If someone rolled their eyes or laughed too loudly in her direction, she shut down. I got her a therapist, a woman named Farah, soft-spoken but no nonsense. Leela saw her every Thursday afternoon. I'd sit in the waiting room with Nico, pretending to read a parenting book while he drew superheroes on scrap paper. One afternoon, he looked up at me and asked, "Mommy, if you had superpowers, what would they be?" I thought for a moment. "Maybe invisibility," I said, half joking. "So no one could hurt us," he squinted. "That's not a good one. You already did that in the old house. You were invisible all the time." His words hit me like a slap. He was right. I had made myself small, silent, harmless, and it had kept us alive. Maybe, but it didn't keep us whole. So I changed my answer. "Okay," I said, "then maybe being strong, so I could lift heavy things, protect people." He grinned. "You already have that one too." That night, I stayed up after they went to bed, looking through old pictures, the ones I hadn't deleted. Lila with a forced smile at Tessa's birthday party. Nico in a Spider-Man costume with a hole in the knee. Me, thinner than I remembered. My eyes dull. I clicked delete. One by one, it wasn't denial. It was a cleansing, letting go of the pieces of me that were never mine to carry. I focused harder on the bakery. Senora Reyes gave me more hours. She even let me start baking for the Saturday morning rush. I experimented with my own recipes. Pumpkin empanadas in the fall, strawberry conchas in the spring. Customers started asking for them. A woman once drove 30 minutes for my chocolate She said her abuela used to make them just like that. She cried when she took a bite. That's when I started thinking about opening my own place. Just a small one, a cart, maybe a booth at the farmer's market. I even had a name picked out, Ross's Pandulce. It wasn't much yet, but it felt real, until Tessa showed up again. I was walking back from the laundromat, a basket of warm towels balanced on my hip, when I saw her leaning against a silver SUV, sunglasses too big for her, small, sharp face. She looked older, thinner. Her mouth was still curled into that same mocking smirk. "I found you," she said, like it was a game. My stomach dropped. I didn't say anything, just stared. "You're not good at hiding, you know," she went on. "You think just because you scrub floors in some bakery and hide behind the law, you get to pretend you're better than us." I shifted the basket on my hip. "What do you want, Tessa?" she laughed. "What do I want?" "Oh, Rosa, what do you think I want? You stole my grandpa's land." I blinked. "Your grandpa. You know what I mean?" she snapped. "That land in Mexico. You had no right. Mom was supposed to get that," she said. "He promised." I almost laughed. "Tomas wasn't your grandfather. He was my cousin. Morgan barely knew him. He liked us better." She sneered. "You stole from us. I inherited what was legally mine," I said. "You didn't even know he existed until the money came through." She didn't like that. "You better watch yourself," she said slowly. "People don't just get to walk away like you did." I stared at her. I didn't walk away. I crawled, bled, dragged myself out, and I'm never going back. I walked past her, kept walking, even when she shouted something after me. I didn't look back. When I got home, my hands were shaking. I triple-checked the locks. I called the shelter. Lawyer told her what happened. She took notes, added it to the file, said they could file for a no-contact order, but part of me knew that wasn't the last of Tessa. She was her mother's daughter, and her mother had always believed people like me didn't deserve peace, but this time, I wasn't alone. I had a community. I had witnesses. I had a bank account with more than $12 in it. I had a child who watched me survive and became brave enough to speak. I had Nico, who no longer cried himself to sleep, who made his own peanut butter sandwiches now and left half for me just in case I was hungry. And I had something neither Verona nor Eric would ever understand. I had rebuilt from nothing, with my own hands, with quiet mornings, soft bread, and louder children, and no one was taking that from me. It was a Tuesday, an unremarkable day, just warm enough that you could feel spring trying to push winter out. Lila had a dentist appointment, and I'd taken the afternoon off. On our way home, she asked for ice cream, even though her mouth was still numb. I said, yes, why not? We sat on the curb outside a strip mall, sharing a melting cup of strawberry swirl, watching the world go by like it was finally ours, *. That night, I got a letter in the mail, an actual envelope, hand-addressed, no return address. Inside, a cease and desist notice. Morgan was suing me, claiming fraud over the land in Mexico, saying I manipulated Tomas, that I coerced him into changing documents in my favor, that I cheated her out of her rightful inheritance. I almost laughed. The woman had never set foot in that town, couldn't pronounce half the family names, but she'd heard about the deal, the value, and her greed turned legal. I brought the letter to the legal clinic. They connected me with an immigration and property attorney who specialized in international inheritance disputes. She looked over the paperwork, raised her eyebrows, and said, "She doesn't have a leg to stand on, .. but she can try to make your life miserable." I sighed. "She's already trying." Then she said something that lit a fuse in me. "If you want, we can respond, but if you're feeling a little bold, I've got another idea." Her idea wasn't violent, it wasn't cruel, it was just smart, strategic, clean. And for the first time in a long time, fun. Darra kept showing up over the next few weeks. At the park, at the bakery. Once, even near Lila's school, where she leaned against a fence, pretending to text. Following me the whole time. I documented everything, photos, voice memos, dates, times, locations. I spoke to the school. I filed for a restraining order. And this time, I was granted one. When she was served, she apparently laughed. Scared little Rosa got claws. She'd said to the officer according to his report, but it wasn't claws I had. It was proof, evidence, patience, and a lawyer with an idea. You see, Dira had a secret, or so she thought. She'd been living off disability checks and some unreported income from an online boutique. Morgan helped her set up selling knockoff handbags and makeup, fake brand name lashes. My lawyer did a little digging, enough to find multiple buyer complaints, enough to suggest unreported income and possible benefit fraud. All we had to do was push. I filed a formal complaint with the State Commerce Board anonymous. Attached screenshots, dates, transactions. I sent one to the IRS too, just in case. Then I waited. 3 weeks later, Tessa was under investigation. 2 months after that, she lost her benefits. Her boutique was taken offline by Shopify for repeated violations. PayPal froze her funds. I heard through a mutual acquaintance that she screamed at Morgan, accusing her of ruining everything. Morgan had apparently co-signed several of Tessa's documents, including the lease to the apartment they shared. By summer, they were evicted. By fall, Morgan had filed bankruptcy, but I wasn't done. With help from my lawyer and some community organizers, I held a tamale fundraiser for local immigrant women. We raised over $6,000 in 2 days. People came from across the city, teachers, nurses, churchgoers, even a local food blogger who did a write-up on me titled "The Tamale Queen Who Baked Her Way Out of Hell." I used the money to rent a stall at the Wichita Farmers Market. My bakery stand Rosa's pan Dulcie was born. The lines were long. The reviews were glowing. I started getting custom orders. 1 week, I sold over 300 conchas. That's when it happened. A woman approached me, tall pursed lips, glasses like a corporate villain. I recognized her immediately. Morgan. She stood stiff, as if she might crack from the inside. "You're doing all this out of spite?" she asked. I wiped my hands on my apron, smiled. "No, I'm doing it for me, for my kids," she scoffed. "You're just lucky, that's all. You're still nothing. You'll always be nothing." I looked at her. Really looked at her. Worn dash-out blouse, discount heels, that anxious dry mouth kind of hate people, where when they've lost their grip on the story they told themselves. I leaned in, voice soft and unshakable. "Was nothing to you because I loved you too quietly? Because I stayed. But now, I don't need you to see me. The world does." She blinked. "We'll see how long that lasts." I turned to take another customer's order. "Already has," I said over my shoulder. She didn't reply. She didn't come back. So here, I am in a small 2-bedroom home with sunlight pouring through real windows. I can open with my own 2 hands. There's a lemon tree in the backyard that Nico waters like it's sacred. Leela's in the debate club. Nico's art got chosen for a district-wide exhibit. And me, I'm baking, building something real, something of mine. Eric tried calling again once. He left a message. "You took everything." I played it once, then deleted it. He was right. I did take everything, but only what was already mine. My freedom, my children, my dignity, my name. And I gave them something in return. Silence. No revenge needs to be bloody. The most satisfying revenge is to rise so far above your enemies that they can't even reach you anymore, that they stand in the ashes of the world they tried to trap you in, while you walk away carrying light in your hands, and they know without question they'll never get it back.